We're just doing this.
All right.
We're doing this, Cody.
All right, let's go.
Can't see your brown paper bag. That's good.
It's my lunch for later.
That's your lunch. Big Fat Podcast episode number... I'm not going to say the number because, you know why? Because I always end up changing something around and I'm like putting things in different order. So...
Save yourself.
What kind of a podcast are we running here? All right. Hey, thank you everybody for coming out here early this morning. Ashley from Cajun Phatties, all the way from Billings, came out, and please pronounce your last name for me because I'm going to tell you. I say Robichaux.
It is a Robichaux.
A Robichaux?
No, Robichaux.
Oh, okay.
Robichaux.
Robichaux.
Yeah.
Ashley Robichaux.
Robichaux.
Well, that's simple enough.
Sounds Cajun.
It's a little.
Sounds Cajun.
Cajun from the bayou, for sure. If you call
That
me,
wasn't intended, actually.
my husband is now called Robichaux. I've stripped him of all his Cajun rights because I said something about back home, and he said, we are home. This is home. And I said, all right, Mr. Robichaux. Because that's what every, solicitor says, we're not Robichaux or Robichaux or whatever. So I stripped him of all his Cajun rights.
That sounds like a Montana pronunciation of something.
Robichaux?
Yeah.
It does. Sounds like a food.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to think of. What kind of food is that?
Well, I'll be telling somebody where I drove through, and I'll go to mention the name of the town or something, and it's obviously something, some foreign language or whatever, but they do make zero effort to pronunciate things in the way that they were originally intended.
Sure.
And all the time, I'm like, I wonder what the Montana pronunciation is of this place as I drive along. It's whatever the simplest version that wouldn't even occur to you.
Right.
What's the one down there by Idaho? People always gets me. Du Bois.
Oh, yeah.
They're like Du Bois. It's Dubois.
It's Dubois.
It's Dubois, right?
That's French.
Yeah.
Hey, that's not true. I learned it as Du Bois.
Du Bois.
You learned all wrong.
I was right. I was totally right. Hey, you know why there's no Miss Idaho in the Miss USA pageant? Because nobody wants to be known as Miss Idaho.
This guy.
Look at that.
You might want to cut that one out.
Yeah. Well,
I'll get in trouble by my
Cody's
Idaho
the only one
ones.
we ever have to cut out. Yeah. Hey, so thank you for coming on into Columbus today. We're, downtown Columbus in our
Cities.
fancy digs here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I'm curious, how did you come to be from Louisiana with a legitimate accent, the whole 9 yards? Give us your origin story. Food trailer. We started to talk about all this stuff way too early before we got in here recording. So now you have to repeat everything. But how did you get into the food trailer business and then your transition? We want to learn about how you got into Cajun Phatties and you got your restaurants going great there. We've been there. We've had awesome food there. You always have a great atmosphere and the whole 9 yards.
How'd you end up in Montana?
How'd you end up in Montana?
So one of my sisters has been here for 35 years. They moved for the oil industry, and then the oldest one moved next about 15 years later. And I have MS. I'm heat intolerant, and I just couldn't do the heat anymore. And so we actually flew out to Oregon and stayed out there for 10 days. And my mom said, no way. If y'all are moving, you're moving to the same state, and then I'll come too. And so really it was the first time in 35 years we were all living together. My mom ended up passing away 2 years after that. So it was the first time in all of those years. And literally we have a gate that separates our houses. She's in my backyard. So
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And so, I've got 35 years in fine dining, and was a consultant for years, traveled around, opening restaurants. It's really all I really knew. And we got to, Colorado on my trip up here. The last year we were in Louisiana, I just was sick. I just couldn't function. Just the MS was bigger than I was and what have you. But anyway, so we got, maybe somewhere around Colorado, and all of a sudden that brick or that block that was on my head was lifted. And I'm like, it was kind of strange, So overnight, immediately I felt better. I had more energy and whatever. And so I had quit working for about 6 years. Not really, but I got out of the restaurant business for a bit. And when I started feeling better, I told the husband, I said, I'm buying a food truck. And he said, have you lost your mind? I said, well, maybe. So here we are. I did not buy a food truck right away. We were not seeing eye to eye on the vision. And so I bought a tent. And I started doing events at the Metro in a tent. And we did the first Ales for Trails. There was nothing Cajun here. So I said, well, you're either going to let me do something Cajun or we not eating. And so we went to Ales for Trails, and everybody else had their fancy rigs and their trailers and whatever, and we had a line completely around the walkway. I mean, we were knee deep in just
Wow.
It was crazy.
Wow.
And but I had boiling pots outside. I was making big batches of gumbo, and then I was grilling because I didn't have a fryer, so I made grilled shrimp po' boys on that particular night. And when that was over, I thought, oh, I don't know if this is really my calling. It was fun, but it was definitely getting your feet wet.
Intense.
Yeah, it was intense.
Way intense.
It was really intense. And then so we did a lot of the events at the Metro. I really just needed to see if the community would receive us well, because there was nothing Cajun. Why was there nothing Cajun here? And, you have all these restaurants that have Cajun, and they're not Cajun.
Right.
And that gives us a bad reputation. Actually, I tell my Cajuns that do walk in that they pay double, one for their attitude and one for their meal, because they always walk in saying, this is not going to be Cajun.
Oh.
We're going to try it, but it's not going to be good.
Well, there's a difference between Cajun and Creole.
Absolutely.
Yes. So what is that difference?
So the history behind that is money, really. So the New Orleans area, I'm not going to get into all the slavery and all that stuff, but they had more resources. So they could get tomatoes grown, they could get okra, they could get all of these ingredients that the Bayou people could not. They had to kill and grow whatever they were going to be able to cook with. Whereas these snooty fatooty New Orleans people, who are great, they're great. They're fun people. They just, they had more money than the rest of us.
So are the snooty fatooties, are they more Cajun or are they Creole?
They're more Creole.
Okay, just trying to make sure I understand.
And then even that has transitioned. Even that has changed a lot. But literally, the Cajun people, it is what was at their hand. They had to cook with whatever was there. And so you have a lot of one-potters, those kind of dishes so Cajun is more rustic and browns, whereas Creoles are more tomatoey, okra-based kind of things. Both equally good, just on a different spectrum. And both of them have the same base, but if you think about Chinese food, we have fried rice, we think about paella, we think about all of these one dishes, they all are similar. So jambalaya would be the same as the Chinese fried rice or the paella and that, that kind of thing. So we all kind of have the same base to things, and we just change it up. The one misconception that is across the board is that Cajun food or Creole food is spicy. So yes, we like spices, but we like all spices. So it's not just, so if you eat a Cajun dish and that's a telltale sign that it's not the real deal.
It's not legit because it's
all cayenne, and that's all you're tasting. So when it scorches your tongue, that's not good stuff, because you want it to be able to build. So those are the differences. It was resources, really. So
Wow. No, I just got an education right there.
I did too. Yeah.
I knew the difference, but I know a lot of people don't know the difference.
No. So like in the restaurant, we have we call a kitchen sink jambalaya, and that is straight up Bayou food. That is, we have all the meats and the whatevers, but it is brown and rustic. And then we have our Creole jambalaya, which is more tomatoey. It's got a tomato base. But you will never, ever, and if you ever do, in any part of the state of Louisiana or anywhere else, eat a gumbo that's got tomatoes in it, slap the people. That's not good. You don't put tomatoes in gumbo. That's vegetable soup.
So how often does that actually happen?
Often. And it's happened around town, and I keep saying, one guy that works at a really great restaurant here, and he said, I hate my gumbo. And I said, then why do you have it on your menu?
Yeah.
If you don't love what you're cooking, if it's not to your liking, don't put it on there just because you think that that's a good dish to have. No, change it up and make it whatever it's going to be. But if you don't love it, don't put it on your menu.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that.
Yeah.
So you told him, I'm going to buy a food truck. And you said you guys were not on the same page about that. What year was that?
That was, well, it's 2000. We moved here in 2012, so that was 2012.
Okay. And did you actually get a truck, or was it a trailer?
And we got a trailer.
Okay.
I bought it sight unseen. It was on, I can't remember. What's the name of those?
Yeah, there are like food truck trader.
No, it was like one of those things online.
Yeah.
Anyways, one of those sites. And so I had seen the pictures of it. It was pretty empty. It just really didn't have a whole lot to it. I mean, it had an 8-burner stove. That was important. And it had some commercial coolers in there. But anyways, the guy was wanting a lot more than I had for it. Originally, the husband said, well, you can get this big tricked out one and whatever. Yeah. And I said, well, I just don't know if it's going to be successful. I mean, I could tell you what the tent's doing, but I don't know what this is going to do. And so the guy wanted, I think, like $30,000, and he was going through a divorce, needed money right away. I offered him $13,000. He took it.
That's awesome.
Oh, wow.
I love those stories because people, like we were talking about this earlier, people put a tremendous amount of money into new setups and
you don't know if it's going to be successful. And you don't know if you have what it takes to do that. Because even if you've been in the restaurant industry, it's a completely different animal.
Completely different.
Completely. You don't even realize the physical work. And, I mean, I come from the age group that, I'm not saying I'm old by any means, but I come from the work ethic that is you lifting, you're pulling, you're doing
everything. Put your back into all the work.
Correct. This generation, not as much. I'm not dogging anybody, but just they're not the same. In their minds, they've got it smarter, they've got it easier. Whereas when you have a food truck, it is physical. It is physical all day, every day.
Very physical.
It is, and that is a big thing. Is finding out, number one, if your food is going to make it, if you're going to make it. You're not dealing just with food and the people. You're now dealing with the weather.
Yeah.
Watching the weather.
Yes.
Is today going to be not just even, there's the big things. There's the snow, the ice, and the cold temperatures, but sometimes it's even just the wind.
The wind.
Wind is the worst out of 30 below. We could be 30 below and make it better than we do in the wind.
Yeah.
Wind kills business.
I tell you what, I was extremely naive about weather. I will take a hurricane any day over some of these windstorms they have here, and definitely over a hailstorm. I was driving my food truck in a hailstorm and jackhammered that thing and thought I was going to die. And I just literally had a mile to go before the hail was going to stop. And I did. I died 10 times on that drive.
Oh, my gosh. It had to be so loud.
Oh, my gosh.
Did it beat it up?
What? It beat up the truck. It beat up the trailer. I mean, it was just dinged up. And literally, we were at a car show, and we were really in an alley type thing that we were being blocked. And they said, y'all need to leave. And so so hurry up, load everything up. You know that's not easy to do. So we loaded up, and I take off, and literally I live like a mile and a half away from where we were. And I turn onto this one street, and they're little bitty pea sizes. And by the time I turned onto Monad, these things were baseball size. And
just rocks falling from the sky.
Oh my gosh, I've never experienced that, ever. And so I get to our neighborhood, and I mean, I'm turning, and I live in a gated townhome community. So I turn in, and that's it. It stopped. So my daughter was in the house. I come in the house. I throw my purse down. I'm crying. I'm like, I just died. And she's looking at me like I'm nuts. So, yes, I will take it. So looking at weather, well, I am all or nothing. I am so gung-ho. If I commit to something, I better be dead before I don't show up.
Yeah. And
so we have worked this trailer in 30 below. We have had frozen water tanks. We had one guy that let us pull our trailer into his heated building so I could defrost the tanks so that I wouldn't bust them. And it took a week to defrost. But in snow, and you name it, we have done it. And then we were trying to get our name out there. It was bad timing for the snow to happen. So we just kept working. Now I look at it and say, oh, no, I can't take that because it's too icy, it's too snowy, it's too whatever. But, in the beginning, you just took what you could and you worked it. I mean, if you wanted to earn a reputation and have a good standing one. Little did I know that people here do deal with snow.
Yeah.
And so they're like, oh, yeah, are you really coming out? Oh, are you sure? Well, yes, I said I was.
Yeah.
Yes, that's interesting. And the wind, there's been a time or two we've all jumped out of it and went into the building and said, well, if the wind takes it, it takes it. But,
Yeah. The other thing too I find is, and starting or doing your own business or starting up small is difficult. Obviously, I'm not discounting anybody who's in a building and doing whatever, but dealing with the weather, dealing with just the intensity of food and crowds and lines and everything else. It's also hard on relationships too, though.
Yeah.
Family relationships. I mean, as you're dealing with all those stresses.
mm-hmm.
Now you throw in the family dynamic, or you and your husband, or you and your whoever, and I mean, just all that kind of stuff. That's what I feel like when I see the new startups happening.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always like, I wonder if not just that person is prepared for it, but the people who are around them, if they're prepared for this.
So I would say that not every couple can work together. So my husband was in the oil industry. When we moved here, he kind of shifted gears in the sector of business, but he was still in the oil industry. And when he retired from that, I tell this story all the time. He came to work at the restaurant for about 2 weeks. Not sure if he got fired or he quit, but nonetheless, he's not in the restaurant. It's not everybody's deal. I would have to say that my family, that's all here now, they miss me. And so there are lots of times where I'm gone. It's a demanding business, and, I'm not home. And when I am home, I'm exhausted from, whatever. And now that we have the restaurant, you balled and chained to that. And so I would think that they've come to learn. I don't think, again, we hadn't lived all together in 35 years, so they didn't really know how driven or the work ethic that I have. And they're older than I am. They're all retired and whatever. And so I think that has a lot to do with it. Both of my kids have moved here and gone. I mean, they're older now, and they've both worked for me, and they didn't really stick it out. It's not their dream, and that is what I came to realize not too long ago. My son said, "Look, Mom, I'm grateful for the job. I'm grateful for their help, but this is not my dream. This is yours."
Yeah.
So that makes a difference.
It does make a difference, and I've had kids in my place also, and they figured that out. Like, oh, this sounds fun, whatever, but it's not, and that's okay.
Yeah,
it's not their thing.
But it took him to tell it to me that way, because I'm the mom saying, "Look, you've got a built-in career, you've got a built-in job. Why are you goofing off like this?" But when he said, "It is not my dream. I want to do something different with my life," and I'm like, well, okay, as long as you're doing something,
Yeah. It kind of registers with you, and it doesn't make you feel angry or resentful that you're like, oh, yeah.
But it opened my eyes up as well for the whole family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's not just that.
I can get frustrated because the husband, I don't feel like he does all the maintenance and the whatever, but he is not a people person. He is in the background. We are the yin and yang to one another. And when I've asked, I can see it in his face, like I'm asking him to give up his thumb. He's no. And so now I get it, with that. So yes, you're right. It does affect everybody. That's any kind of business, though, does.
Yeah. What? So when you got started, then I mean, you were kind of did you beat that first wave, or were you kind of a part of that first wave? You beat the wave, weren't you? Of trucks that started up in
we were. I believe that we were the first 5. There was a group of us that started all around the same time. You had the veteran Canthalis, or I don't know if I pronounced that right, but they were the veterans. They were the anchor to all of this, and they probably saw something that the rest of the world didn't see. But then we had, barbecue truck, a taco truck, a Greek truck, our truck, and maybe there was one more, but I can't remember now. But so we were all the new ones that were actually hitting the streets. So there was still a lot of licenses in Billings, but or in Yellowstone County, there was a lot of licenses, but all of them were going to the fairs and
all the events.
And so, we were the ones that were going to change how food truck industry looked, and I do believe that we did do that. As a group of us, hitting the lunch pavement and doing all the hard work. And we also stood the test of time, where a lot of these newer trucks will come in and they don't realize all that it takes to do the job. They'll leave, before the season is
They don't
over.
even finish the first season. Yeah.
Correct. So, but the ones that, you've got Ray with Big Guy BBQ. He retired.
They were super nice. I only met him one time. We met him at the Montana barbecue cook-off
Oh, yes.
in Absaroka or something like that. Wasn't it that
Yeah,
event? And they were right across from us, and they were just really super nice to us.
Yeah.
They are. I mean, I did make him lose a couple $100 of meat one time. I wanted to meet him because, we were all on the sink. Kind of like, I got to meet people I'm getting ready to work with. And I sat on his smoker and unplugged it.
Oh.
I had no idea until years later that I had unplugged his smoker.
No.
The stories can go on and on and on, but actually his granddaughter works for me, and she is great.
Was she the one who let you in on that?
Mary Beth, his wife, I don't remember what happened. Maybe, she had surgery or some sort, and she'd always do these little things, notes from the recliner.
Uh-huh.
And so that went on to that, or something similar to that. So anyways, that's how I found out, because he would not tell me that I did that. She ended up telling me, and then, now it's a running story. They knew they loved me as soon as I made them lose all that money.
Oh, man. Oh, wow. That's funny.
That is funny.
It is, and this little Cajun woman is, oblivious to all of that.
And there's so many things like that can just happen, though.
God.
Like if you're at a regular brick and mortar restaurant, like that's probably not going to happen. These
Correct.
things are not just plugged in randomly here or there. This is, everything's kind of thrown together in a way.
Yeah.
And just held together.
Sure.
That's how I always feel.
Yeah.
I feel like, holy cow, things are just like held together right here.
Bungee cord.
Oh, bungee cords and duct tape and just zip ties, and it's like the whole
God.
business is riding on a zip tie.
Correct. Yeah.
So
And that little things that could make your life so much easier. I told you earlier how is the floor still standing? I have no idea. We fry, 90% of the food out of the truck. And
Right.
so, that nobody made a lid to go over the fryers.
Yeah.
And so we would take off, and it was at least 2 years before we came up with a solution, because you take off and that oil is just flying everywhere. And so our solution is not much more than duct tape. It is foil. Drop your baskets in the oil, put foil on top and in a sheet pan, and call it good.
Yep.
Take off. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's stuff like that.
yeah, that's amazing what we've made out of foil.
I know,
yeah.
right?
Foil has so many things.
I laugh all the time.
What about those roundabouts in Billings?
Oh.
Oh, I did not realize what that would do at the tail end of the trailer as I'm coming through town. I'm like, okay, nice and slow going through the roundabout. I went through a few roundabouts, and everything was wrecked in the trailer on the floor. Like, I did not realize the whipping action that was going on back there.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was, and I just knew, like, if I'd hit a bump that I didn't see, it's like, oh, man, there's going to be grease everywhere,
Oh.
Now we've gotten better, but it took years before somebody said, why don't you drop the baskets in the oil and stop it from swishing? And I said,
So much motion going.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
And here you are.
Ah.
So do you find that you have to educate a lot? Like, is there people asking about the Cajun?
The smartest thing we did in this business was get that food truck. Literally, it was the smartest thing. It was a low investment for us at the time. I mean, $13,000, a couple of, things here and there to get people to know us. While before the food truck, we were still in the tent. We had bought the food truck. And the mall called us and said, would you come and set up in the middle of the mall? We've had your food. We think you're unique, blah, 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 for 6 weeks during the holiday season. And I always laugh about it because you couldn't get me out of there fast enough, because that was a bigger investment than the food truck was in itself. However, people still say, I had you when you were in the mall. And so we did that, and then we bought the food truck, and everything's a little bit of a blur. I can't remember if we went into the loft first or did the food truck start working. I think we might have worked the food truck and then decided in the winter, Randy had got in touch with me from the loft and said, look, why don't you come and cook out of this kitchen and do the...
Sorry, I was trying to shut my volume off, and I just like rung it. I was like trying to shut that. I can never tell which button is the one to silence my watch. And it's just like ringing my phone. Apologize. Keep going. Sorry about that.
So we went into the loft for about 6 months. You know, again, it was in one of those locations that we were either going to make it or we were not, you know, and for us, you know, I had other medical issues going on too, and this was really, we were not making in there. We had moments where we were great. You know, we'd do a crawfish boil, and every Cajun came out of the woodworks, sitting in the bathroom hallways, and, you know, it would get crazy that way. But for a day-to-day thing, it just wasn't. But again, it was one of those learning curves and one of those things that we built some really cool relationships with people. And so, I've already lost the question. Oh, the information on Cajun.
Yeah.
So with the Bakken and all of that, you had a lot of people that moved here from the South. And so when that, you know, went bust, a lot of them just didn't want to go back. I mean, we love our culture, but I mean, who wants to be bitten up by mosquitoes and live in 110% humidity every day? So there were some reasons that people ended up staying here. So some nights in the restaurant, we're all Southerners. Mississippi, Texas. So I don't have to educate them. What I have to do is tell them I'm a Robichaux from New Iberia, Louisiana, to shut them down because they all come in with an attitude. Sorry, guys, y'all do. Come in with that attitude that this ain't going to be Cajun. I'm going to eat it. I'm going to try it, but it ain't going to be good. And then when they realize all these things, like, man, this is like being home.
Yeah.
And so I have stayed in the beginning, you know, I'd mild down the spices. I'd do whatever to feed these Montana folks. And then I said, but that's not being true to how we cook. That's not, I'm going to cook the way I cook. And I don't like spicy food. But what I don't consider spicy, somebody else might consider spicy. But I just quit changing it and said, this is how I cook. This is what we do. And so the people that know us, which right now we've just paired up with this marketing company, which has really been interesting because you get all this data. I'm not tech friendly. All this right here, I love it, but I have no idea how any of it works. And so I'm the button clicker. And so they started doing this, sign up for a VIP program, get a free appetizer, blah, blah, blah. And what has been interesting is how many people have not tried us yet. And so I'm like, everybody knows us. I mean, we have over 10,000 followers, you know, they know our name, you know, I can't believe that they haven't come in. And so there was a lot of that. And the number one response is, I don't like spicy food.
Ah.
But it's not spicy.
Because they just automatically assume
They assume. And it's because, if y'all are out there, all you chefs that keep trying to cook Cajun, keep trying to scorch everybody's tongue, that's not Cajun. Blackening does not make it Cajun. But, so it's flavorful. We use a lot of spices.
That's the difference. It's flavor. There's tons of flavor.
Correct.
Yep. I like spicy, so I'm like, oh, I want to put the hot sauce on. But
having grown up from around here, when people say it's Cajun, you just know it's burnt.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not intended to be that way, but that's just what their thought process is.
So, and that's another funny thing. I posted that a while back. Blackening seasoning it does not make it any more Cajun than a taco shell makes it Mexican. That is the truth. And so, but blackening seasoning is a seasoning. You want to char the outside of it, but you don't want to burn it. That doesn't make it blackened. Yeah. It's a seasoning. It's a spice blend.
It's like searing a steak.
Correct. You want a little crust on it, but you don't want to burn the heck out of it.
Yep.
You know, that's not Cajun.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's not Cajun. Butter, spices, that makes it Cajun.
So you're what was the jump then to go brick and mortar? What?
So that was always the intention originally. And again, I said my background is fine dining, and I do love that spectrum. I'm a wine, food, cigar type person. I spent all of my career in that. But again, they just didn't have anything Cajun here. I had no intentions of running a food truck for the rest of my life, although I love it. I do have a lot of fun in it. But it took me longer to get out of the food truck than I thought it was. I thought within 6 months, a year, I'd be looking at a building, and that was not the case. And so we had dabbled in the mall, and we dabbled in the loft, and I was really kind of starting to get concerned. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to run this food truck until the wheels fall off. And basically, I've said it, I don't know how they're still on. We started having to bring an additional kitchen with us. So I brought more fryers, more grills, griddles, and all these things. And my back said, you old witch, you don't need to do all of this all the time. And I couldn't find the younger people to do it. So
it's a huge project. People do not realize when you go to set up for an event, it's like a 3-day event because you're having to load everything, pack it, unload it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's exhausting.
It is. And some of those events have been great, but there's no way I could have produced the food that I needed to produce out of the trailer. So it came now with a tent, 2 fryers, 3 griddles, a smoker. I mean, when we do some of these events, I bring up whole gators and smoke them on the pit. And, it was a lot of things. And finally I said, I am tired. I'm tired of doing it this way. So I actually looked at the building that we're in for 3 years before I actually moved in it. So, Mary's Sunny Day Cafe was in there, and it literally, I'd seen it. She wanted to sell the equipment. I didn't have the money. So it sat, and I looked at it, and it was empty, and it just was empty. So funny story was, I have a realtor friend, Adam, that was helping me look for a building, and I particularly do not like Grand Avenue. It's just not my street. I feel claustrophobic on it. Anyways. Lucky's Market was in that strip mall, and there was a building. So I went and looked at it, too, and I had looked at Mary's again. And the Mary's deal, they were looking at one point to maybe get rid of the whole building or something or another. And so that option was now gone. It had been sitting for 3 years, and now that option was gone. So I went and looked at this other place, and I said, I'm just not feeling it. It's too much work. They're not willing to put in the money for this, that, or the other, and go ahead and call the landlord back I called it Mary's, right? So go ahead and call the landlord back and just see, because if it's not available, then I'm not going to do any of them. Not now anyways. And sure enough, it was available. And it was just one of those things like he was getting ready to call us, we were calling them. And so I went back in, I looked at it. I'm a prayer. I prayed over is this my spot? And it was. And it was small enough that I could manage it. The most important thing was there was a hood in it. There was a walk-in cooler and a walk-in freezer. Those were the things.
The big expensive things.
My kitchen is no bigger than my food truck.
Oh,
really,
wow.
It's not. And to say we shucked out 100,000 dishes last year out of that kitchen, I'm always floored because I have no space to put anything. The cool thing is I have running water. I don't have to worry about it freezing, and I don't have to. But it's not that big.
Does that make you also, like, for those little things of running water, a walk-in fridge, like you're like,
all the time.
This is amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's all the time, and then I'll get a dose of reality when I pull the food truck out. But again, even that's cool because now I can run to the restaurant to pick up any backup anything.
Yep.
I can prep in the restaurant and just put it. So those are the simple things that. I do appreciate. I am known for putting 25 pounds of poop in a 5-pound bag. I'm known for it. I mean, I have packed that food truck. I have packed that restaurant. I have redesigned that restaurant 1,000 times and always find a way to put something else in it.
To put more in there. Yep. Organization.
My poor little GM is like, okay, you have to stop. Why? We got this. We could do that.
We have a shelf here. We can put little drawers here.
Correct. So
that's great.
Oh, yeah. If we ever gave a trailer tour of ours, same type of deal all the time, I'm like, you know what? If we just move this here, we could fit in this. And we've done some stuff to make some room for some stuff.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you can do when you get a little creative. You can fit a lot of stuff in place.
I know my staff now. They didn't work the food truck. They didn't really have that experience with me. We have been doing turduckens for 10 years. And whoever came up with that idea, I'd like to step on her foot because there's a she. But
So what is a turducken?
it's a deboned turkey, duck, and chicken that are stuffed together with stuffing.
Ah.
And so for every holiday,
That's pretty good.
it's excellent. It's excellent, but it is a lot of work. A lot. And so, anyways, every Thanksgiving and Christmas, outside of this year, I put a big limit on it because duck has gone up so much in price. But years past, we went from doing like 50 to like 300. And I am the only deboner. Last year, I trained 2 people, and then they moved out of state. So, the same thing with the king cakes. And when those productions...
You do the king cakes, too.
I am doing king cakes right now, and I am booked until Mardi Gras week. And so I only have a few spots left that I can do anything.
What's a king cake?
So king cake is, just think like a big cinnamon roll, I guess. It is a bread dough that is filled with whatever filling, and it's round in shape, and it has a plastic baby that's put inside of it, and then the colors are purple, gold, and green. It started out as a Spanish thing, I believe, and that was to honor the king. You brought him a king cake, and it would have like a coin or a bean in it. And whoever cut the piece that had the coin or the bean or the trinket in it was to provide the next cake, throw the next ball for the king. It transitioned into a Catholic thing, I guess, New Orleans, 1800s, 1700s maybe, where the baby represented Jesus. The colors represent justice, peace, prosperity. And so there were all these Mardi Gras balls with masks and beautiful ball gowns and what have you. But anyways, it starts on the January 6th, which is the 12th day after Christmas. And it runs all the way until Fat Tuesday, which is the day before Lent. And so, again, whoever cuts the piece that has the baby in it is supposed to provide the cake and throw the next ball. It's typical for Cajuns. Typical for them to look for who's throwing the next party.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. Kind of, it's evolved over
how
the years.
how the things have evolved over it.
Yeah. It's just an excuse to have a party and a parade.
And a piece of cake.
Get some beads, flash whatever you flash, and then get a piece of cake.
That's what Mardi Gras means to me, is flashing.
Yes.
But I think it's the guy's side of it. For sure.
So we did an event at the Metra, and I had all these Mardi Gras beads on the tables. Let me just tell you, I've seen more hairy chests than I ever cared to see in my life. These guys would come up, "Can I get a bead?" I said, "They're free.
You don't have to.
You don't have to flash me anything. I'm good."
Like getting a cup of coffee. If I see another cup of coffee.
Yeah, right. So, with all those production things that we've got going on, it gets really tight. The employees are like, "What is she doing now? We have no space to put these things." So the way I have it set up now, they have to place an order. They have to pick it up on that date. You know, you can't.
No holds, no nothing.
Correct.
That's it.
Correct.
Goes
because
on
I
to the
just
next.
don't have any space. But we started that in the food truck.
Oh.
So that's when it gets,
That's creative. King's
is
cakes in the food truck?
and turduckens.
Oh,
And then, me, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, I would rent out the loft kitchen, or they'll loan it to me, or I'll go wherever and rent out a kitchen. And but we did, prime ribs and brisket and gravy and all the side dishes. And funny enough, back home, that is a no-no. We don't do all that. You don't pick up your stuff at the store and bring that home and call that Thanksgiving. That just doesn't happen. So my niece married a guy from here, and anyways, we've all become one big family. And the first holiday we were here, and we're all there, and they have, you name it, prime rib, turkey, the works. And I said, "Oh my gosh, y'all must have been cooking for days." And she said, "No, we picked this up from Albertsons." What? Triggered something, and I said, "Holiday meals." And let me just tell you, we needed to make payroll at the beginning of this pandemic in March, and I did deboned stuffed chickens for Easter, and that is what helped me make payroll. Because they had shut us down. And so it was, I had already been doing the family type meals.
yeah.
But production in that little bitty kitchen is definitely a challenge.
So this is a good question. Did you guys grow up going to the store to get your meals?
No.
No.
No, me neither.
No,
right?
my parents cooked for days. My grandma cooked for days.
Yeah.
I do. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't get stuff. I think I did get pies from Michaela, which she homemade though, you know.
Right.
But other than that, no.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a whole new world that not because Thanksgiving.
I've thought about it. There's been a few times I've thought about
Well, and I think there's times where they're like something doesn't turn out right, and they run and grab.
Right.
But it's not like to think of like ordering Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner, Easter. None of. I mean,
foreign.
Yeah.
I promise you, if I were to bring that up in my home, I'd be. I don't think I'd be eating.
No. But you know what? It has gotten convenient for the modern day family.
Yep.
That is really convenient because I will debone the birds and I stuff them and season them, but you bake that. You have to cook that.
Yeah, so you're just doing all the prep where then
Correct.
somebody just has to throw it in the oven.
Correct.
Well, okay, so this is a good question. How many people know how to cook? Like, how many of the let's just call it younger generation, but I think that's not.
Percentages?
Yeah, like how many people know?
Like 7%?
Yeah. Right?
You think it's really that low?
I do.
I think that you've got this new generation of vegan and organic and all of these things where there's a lot of raw cooking. There's not a whole lot of cooking. There's a lot of raw
and
eating.
these meal kits
Yeah.
that
Yes.
are becoming so. And I have to say, I did it for a little bit too, just to have it delivered to my door. And we're so
sure.
busy, you know, just all the ingredients there,
Right.
but just which
Yeah.
you're still learning how to cook, but
Right.
yeah, everything's instant gratification now. Done.
Yeah,
You know, nobody's.
And so can I go into this next little thing?
You can go into whatever you
Yeah,
want. Let's do it.
So you're exactly right. The gratification. The beginning of this pandemic, everybody sheltered in place. We lost that feely touchy thing. We can't go to the store and touch anything. We can't smell the candle. We can't do the whatevers. Our food is being delivered to our doors. That opened up a whole nother segment of the restaurant industry, the grocery industry, the liquor industry.
Deliver liquor to door. Now
Correct.
you deliver mixed drink.
Correct. Now that's onto something. We have daiquiri. You drive through daiquiri shops back home, so that is, that's okay. No, we do. As long as it has tape on it, you're good to go. You can take that out. You can pop the straw down the rope, but as long as you have that tape on it, you're good. But we've lost that. And I said in the beginning, I have friends that own restaurants in New York and they were consultants that I had worked with throughout the years. And I watched what they were doing. It was a matter of time before it was going to trickle to us smaller people, in the states that weren't as affected as much. But there is going to come a time where I don't like to shop online. I don't want to shop online. I want to feel it. I want to touch it. I want to smell it. I want to know that it fits me, right? I want my food to feel and taste and smell fresh. There is going to be that time, and I said it from the beginning. I'm still saying it, where people are going to long for that. And they're going to long for that communicative with their neighbors. And they're going to long for that hug from whomever. We've gotten away from that, and we have made a new world that a lot of us don't fit in. And so here we are. We talked about the restaurant and how small it is, and we've outgrown it. But yet the cost of everything is so high that even though we have the customers, we are making more money than we ever did, but more money is going out. And so right now we're getting ready to start a crowdfunder. In fact, it starts this week, and then next week we go live with a big deal. My vision is to be able to give somebody an adventure. You're from Texas, right? Or you've lived in Texas?
I lived in Texas, yet.
Buc-ee's. You've ever been to a Buc-ee's gas
I
station?
have not, but I've heard of them.
Oh my gosh. What an
think-
adventure.
Yeah.
It's an adventure to walk into this gas station that's not really a gas station.
No, it's.
I mean, it has gas pumps,
massive.
but but that was the vision here. And so we found a building that we're looking at. And it's going to take quite a bit of money, but I said, the only way I'm going to make it in this restaurant business is to cut out the middlemen because they are robbing us. I know. They are ripping our eyes out, and
We're not being able to make it.
we don't even have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it comes the time, and some of these restaurants are not going to survive because people are not going to be able to afford to eat out.
It's coming
They're going
real
to
quick.
have to
It's
learn how
coming.
to cook.
Yep.
They're going to have to do these, whatever they can do, eat tuna out of a can, which is $4 a can. I mean,
Yeah.
it's true. So the vision right now is to be able to open a specialty meat market in the same building, a small bakery, a gift shop, and then a restaurant in the same building. So I don't want any entity there to be that big. It needs to be manageable. Everything still needs to feel quaint. But, the husband's getting a CDL license so he can truck seafood for me, can truck some of these supplies. It's cheaper for us to do that than it is to buy from any of these vendors. So my way of thinking right now was, all right, I need people to be communicative. I need them to touch and feel stuff, and I need them to be able to go to their local meat market and be able to afford to buy some sort of meat package. I could do deboned stuffed chickens. We could do the turduckens. We can make the sausage and blah, blah, blah. It would be cheaper for the restaurant to buy it from us. It would be cheaper, and we could be able to still offset those costs to the consumer. Because at the rate we're going now, McDonald's and I hate to call people out, but nonetheless, McDonald's, Walmart's, you name it, they're the ones that are going to be able to survive because they have buying power that we do not have.
Absolutely, 100% correct.
And so those prices continue to go up. People are barely going to be able to afford to buy their groceries. It's already hit them. And so it is definitely, we're in a luxury business where it's a luxury for them to be able to eat with us. So my way of thinking, the community they are beyond great to us. They are just wonderful to us. I've also been pretty good to the community. In this little food truck, in this little restaurant, we have donated over $350,000. I say that's a big number for anybody, but it's extremely big for a restaurant that only seats 32 people. So I didn't do that on my own. I did that with the help of the community. So my way of thinking is, why wouldn't I go to the bank? Well, I'm already in debt. So why would I go to the bank who doesn't want to lend a restaurant any kind of money? Why would I want to do that when I could build the community? A community that builds something together will stand together. They want the same things that I want, or we don't associate, because the people that don't think like me, we don't associate, right? Yep. These guys want the same hands-on I do. I went to a local dress shop, and there was nothing in the store because they've all gone to online. There's a group of us here that don't fit in the world right now that don't want to do that. I don't want to go online. I don't want to do the computer end of things. I hate my phone. I would throw that sucker out in a heartbeat. Give me a flip phone all day long. There is that generation there that is missing those things. So when all of these other restaurants are shutting down, and unfortunately, if they can stand, they're struggling. I have to believe it.
Yeah.
I know what we're doing. I'm struggling.
100%.
Yeah.
So what if we as a community could build something that people want to go to?
Well, how cool. You see in other countries that you go down, you walk out that day and you get your groceries for that day. You go to the bakery, you buy your loaf of bread, you go to the cheesemonger, you get your cheese.
Yes.
How?
But we've also gotten pretty, like you said, instant gratification. I want it 5 minutes ago. And I had read an article several years ago talking about the new generation, and that's exactly what they want. I want it for $5, 5 minutes ago, delivered to my door. Well, that's just not realistic. That's just not realistic. Yeah. And so I still believe that people, we need to be entertained all day long.
Yeah.
We do. Honestly, because when have you sat idle where you didn't have your phone with you?
No, it's instant entertainment. Yeah. That's what's wrong with our kids now.
Exactly.
It's the instant entertainment. They don't know how to be bored or figure out something.
So I just felt like, you know what? This building would house all the things that I want to do in small little entities. But what an adventure to walk in and feel like I'm not in the same world that I live in. I don't know if you guys have been into the restaurant. I know that you've been in the tent.
No, we've been several times. Yeah.
Have you been since the ceiling was done?
No.
I haven't.
Okay.
No.
So it is majestical. It really is. I took every decoration that was in the tent plus about 3,000 more. and hung everything from the ceiling, curtains of lights on the ceiling. And I was going to take it down, and then I said, well, no, I'm just going to add Mardi Gras to it. And then when that's done, I'm going to add Easter eggs to it and whatever. And for nothing more than we are all still in that doom and gloom, if I walk in and I can see something that puts a smile on my face, then I've gotten a feeling from it.
Yeah.
I've had an experience from it. Like the picture you took. I mean, I use that picture often, the ball that you did with the red and everything.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
During Christmas,
yeah. Because I get asked all the time, why you didn't do the tent? Could you do the tent again? Well, I couldn't afford to do the tent again. We don't have PPP money, At that time, we had to be real creative. But that is what they're missing. It wasn't the tent because it was cold. It was a lot of work. I mean, we had heaters in it, but it was a feeling.
Yeah. It was gorgeous, and it was just very calming and pretty.
It was.
And
Well, what you're getting at too is a lot of businesses are missing out on this, even in the simplest way of providing an experience.
Yep.
We see that all the time.
Yep.
We go to places all the time.
No
and as soon as you
music
walk in,
playing.
the very first thing we notice is there's no music.
Yep.
But even just the atmosphere of what's going on. So I think it's powerful what you're describing here with just even the ceiling in there. But it's kind of like, okay, that's one little action, but it's a part of a much broader vision I see. So I can see what you're saying about this other thing that you're going to put together. It's almost creating a market experience, if I'm picturing it right. And that is people are going to be nostalgic. They're going to be nostalgic for that when you can, and it's going to be different.
Yeah.
People from this area, when somebody comes in from out of town, they're going to take people to this experience.
come to this cool market.
Yeah, I think that
Right.
will go over well. And I think also because as a society, we've all been stretching and going in this certain direction where we talk about the instant gratification. And we are getting away from these other things. And it kind of started with, okay, we take all the markets, we take the deli, we take the meat guy, we take the bakery, and we combine it all into the supermarket. So now you can go to one place.
Sure.
And in a lot of ways, you're right. Those guys are going to be the only ones that really make it on that bigger scale. But almost I feel like what you're saying here, I see the power in that of breaking that back apart to the specialties, to the where you know who the guy is who's cutting your meat.
Yeah.
And it's the quality, though. You go to a supermarket, you're not getting the quality that you would be going if you're going down to your downtown local butcher shop.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a snapback. I think there is going to be a movement of a
need it.
snapback.
Oh,
We need
huge.
it. And I
Yeah.
feel like we can
correction.
do this as a community. And a community that gets involved that much. And I mean, I'm always floored because yesterday I put out a post and I'm always floored about the comments on, what they think that we're capable of doing. They feel like they're part of it, and they are. They're part of my decision process. They're part of, growing this together. If they personally connect with it, if they financially connect with it, they're going to keep it going.
Yeah.
Because they are now invested in what that looks like for the community, what it looks like for them. I mean, think about, us girls who like the Hallmark Channel, especially at Christmas time. It is still the feeling that we're looking for. It's still the downtown area we're looking for. But yet, once we leave our TV, we don't find it.
Nope.
You can't find
It's not like
that.
you're going to Red Lodge in the downtown area with all the
Correct.
lights and everybody in their hats and
Correct.
scarves. And
We've gotten so, what's the word I'm trying to use?
impersonal.
Impersonal. It's an imposition for us to get out and walk in the cold. But yet we're still looking for that feeling. We're still looking for those things. So I've always been quirky. I mean, I am like, my glass is always overflowing. I don't care what has been dealt to me. I always think anything is possible. And why not? And that's what I look at all these fun buildings. Like my husband said, oh, the home of the bucking crawfish. You need to get a bucking crawfish and let everybody come and ride it. I said, I don't think they make bucking crawfish. He's joking, but I'm thinking,
How can I make one of those?
Make a bucking crawfish, or an alligator pond or something like that, because I think that it is the little things in life that we're missing out on right now.
Yeah.
I feel it all the time. I get off of work. I'm tired. The other night, I don't know, I must have pulled 16 hours. I was hungry, I was tired, and I needed to take a bath. I fixed a tuna fish sandwich, put it on a plate, went into the bathtub, soaked in my bathtub, ate my sandwich, got up, and went to bed. That's a long day. I needed to get all these things done.
Yeah, but we're doing them all like that at the same time. We're in our car
and we wonder why we have anxiety. I mean, it's things like that, right? Nervous stomach, because we're always, we've got it backwards. Some of these European countries have it right, where they're taking a nap on the side of the road in one of these buses. And
they shut down at 2 o'clock and open up back up at 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock. And
Correct. So I think if we can all just literally stop and smell the roses, live in the moment. If you're going to eat good food. I mean, I'm all about that. You're not giving me potted meat. Can't do that. I mean, I'm simple enough, but if you're going to eat, you eat the best.
Yeah. Eat the best that you can.
Yeah. Or don't eat. Because there's no in between. Right?
Well, that's a project like that, though. That is not going to be a slow down project, though.
No.
Oh, no.
No.
I'm not trying to slow down. My way of thinking has always been, I'd like to smell the roses. I got grandkids.
That's what I mean, right?
I've got grandkids, and I do make the time to do what I need to do with them. And when I got diagnosed with MS, I mourned. I was devastated. They didn't know much about it. We're from the South. It's just not as common there. Basically, they said I'd be in a wheelchair within a year. I just had so much going on at one time, but I was a consultant. I was in the middle of a project, and I didn't have time to slow down. One of those things. But I mourned for a couple of weeks and went to one of these support groups. And I tell you what, if we'd had the rims over there, I'd have jumped off of. We're flat land out there. But it was not supportive. It was not real
depressing.
Depressing. And at that moment, I said, you know what? I'm not living to die. I'm going to live to live. And when and if that time ever comes that I can't do these things, I'm going to figure out what I can do. And so that is where I have been in my life for the last 15 years is I'm going full speed ahead because one day I might not be able to. So, but I can now. I can today. And so when and if that time comes, then I'll switch gears. But so no, I'm not looking to slow down. And also, I have such a good group of employees that I would like to see them grow and do more than they thought that they were capable of doing. And if that is part of the business, if that is, we pay really well for the industry. I haven't gotten a check in a while, but, we do pay really well.
We relate with everything you're saying, by the way.
Everything you say. Yeah, we don't pay, but we pay.
But you know what?
We don't pay us. We pay them. Everybody does really well around us.
Well, you're probably just as simple as I am. I don't need a new vehicle. I don't need a new house. I don't need new clothes.
My truck's been stuck in four-wheel drive for like 3 months.
There you go.
And I haven't been able to get it. I don't have the time or the money to get it fixed.
Well, and I get that. But my way of thinking is these guys are young. And if I want them to build this company, if I want them to be long-term where I'm not constantly looking for people, then why don't I work hard enough to give them a piece of the pie? Why don't I give them something that they're not expecting? Because I'm going to find more passion for this industry than I am going to just the normal Joe Blow that needs to come and wash a couple of dishes and,
Yeah, exactly.
and make $15 an hour.
It's
today.
funny that you're saying all this. I'm looking over here at April because this is where we've gone with things too. We look at it the same. Mm-hmm. We look at it the same way. We try to share. We've made shifts in our business where all of a sudden we're giving way more to them than what nobody was even asking for anything. Right. But I'm like, let's give of ourselves as much as we can instead of them being to a point where they're having to ask us for this or ask us for like, hey, do you think I earned this or like that? Like, let's give what we can there because if we can keep the right people here, they're going to help us build a business. Correct. And I don't have to sit here and worry about the comings and goings. And so we look at it a lot the same way. Sometimes it works out great, and sometimes it doesn't.
And you're right.
Either way,
you can't always just throw money at something and expect them to, you can't always do that, and that has been proved too.
Right.
But I would say, at least 50% of the time you're going to find somebody who's dedicated and passionate. I mean, I am pretty fortunate. We had 2 people that moved out of state. Replacing them has been the challenge.
Yeah.
But the beginning of this pandemic, I knew exactly where my money needed to go. Again, I'm watching my friends in bigger cities that have already gone through this, or I was tried to be one step ahead of the game. I'm not going to lose my employees. I am not going to lay them off. Therefore, you're not going to get a paycheck right now. You're going to put your money where it needs to go. And so we did that. I did not lay off anybody. I had 2 employees for health reasons. They voluntarily took the time off. They still work for me. But we gave instant raises for our servers who were going to lose their tips, for the kitchen staff that, again, everybody was just uncertain about what was going to happen. We adjusted our prices accordingly. I mean, of course, we already had a built-in to-go business. We're coming out of a food truck. So we had a built-in to-go business already. It was different because now you're cooking, scratch-made food at McDonald's speed. And, that was the challenge in that part of it. But when we got it down, I said, okay, we're going to shut down 3 days a week. We're only going to open 4 days a week, and we're going to open until I think it was 7 or 8 o'clock. And we already had our Uber Eats and Grubhub and Cafe Courier and all of them. We had them all. And we were busy. I don't think physically I could have opened any more than what we were open. We were just busy, and people were so generous. Let me tell you, I did a little video the day before they were shutting us down. We kind of had that heads up that they were going to shut us down. And I did a video. I didn't have a single soul in the restaurant. It was lunchtime. And so my voice is cracking. I'm thinking, oh my God, what is getting ready to happen here? This was on the Monday. On the Tuesday, I opened the doors to $5,000 in donations.
Wow.
People just, we want to buy gift cards, or we want to donate. Everybody was so giving at that time. And I mean, I was in awe, but that gave me that sense of security, like this community is not going to let us go out of business. They're just not. I'm going to be creative as I can, and I'm going to work as
support that.
Correct. And I did the same thing with the employees, and I didn't put myself first. I said, this is what we need to do because I'm looking at the future. I'm looking at what's going to happen because I'm not going down without a fight. And so we still have all of those same employees. They're all still there. Who would have ever thought in the restaurant industry that we would be paying cooks up to $20 an hour? That was unheard of.
Yeah, but here we are.
And here we are.
Yeah.
So there was a way to do it. I mean, the consumer obviously has to understand that their prices are going to go up. You're going to pay $20 for a burger.
You're paying for the convenience of that. You're paying for the convenience of somebody to make that for you and pick it up.
Exactly. I mean, McDonald's and all of those were the only part of the industry that could inch their prices up and nobody griped. Because they were already affordable. So $10 burger is not going to flinch anybody because your neighbor, your independent, has no choice but to charge $20.
Yep.
Yeah. I think they're starting to feel it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like they're starting to get a little bit of blowback on their prices. We've all noticed their prices are going up, and they're like one of the only places here in town to eat. So that's why I know that and pay attention to that.
Sure.
But, they're already, there's a big shift going on for them. Like, so I look at how I'll go through the line there, and they'll say, "Are you using the app today?" And I'll say, "Yeah, I am." Because I'm looking at what are they doing? Because this is what's coming to all of us.
Correct.
And I asked the guy at the checkout or at the window, I'm like, how do you like the app? And he was like, "Love it, love the app." And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, I was just wondering how you guys take the app or whatever." And he's like, "Yeah, love it. Wish everybody would use it." Well, that's because he doesn't have to communicate with anybody anymore.
Correct.
Okay. And I'm thinking about this. I'm like, it's not going to affect you per se, because who knows if you're going to be here 10 years from now or 20 years from now. But there's not going to be anybody at this window here pretty soon. And McDonald's is already investing in that. That's the next level. That's why people are going to either gravitate toward I don't have to interact with a human, to it's going to divide.
Yep.
because pretty soon you're going to go to Walmart and you're not going to deal with a human at all.
I know.
And you're going to go, I'm a person who wants this experience, or I'm a person who just doesn't want to deal with anybody today. And when you go to McDonald's pretty soon, you're not going to deal with anybody. There's going to be a guy who repairs something every now and then, but it's going to be made.
Automation.
Everything is going to be done by automation. They're already investing in this. They're already running this in places. And that is going to be, hey, do you want to not deal with employees? Great. You can buy one of our franchises, and you don't have to deal with employees.
Correct. We've been pushed to that point. I mean, my husband, his background himself, he works on robotic operating vessels. So he's all about automation. And I'm like, yeah, but no, you got to be able to talk to people and touch people. So you're right. Pretty soon, what I am targeting is going to be a niche group.
It is. It is.
But I can't help but feel, without a doubt, that we still need to be. There are people like me who wants to be in person.
Oh, there's a good percentage of the population most of us still have our humanity.
Sure.
There's a few of us out there that don't.
You know what? During this pandemic, some people are pretty ugly.
Yeah.
And makes you not want to deal with people. And I'm not talking ugly because their hair looks bad.
It makes us feel like that at times.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, man. But then, you have to prevail.
So I go back and forth. I mean, there's times where, like, I love making a positive impact in our people's lives and everything else. And honestly, then there's days where I'm like man, I wish I didn't have to deal with any people.
Yeah, they don't care.
But
no, exactly.
But in the long run, you're right. There is a shift coming where you're either going to choose the non-person experience because you can, or you can go choose the whole experience of like, hey, there's a whole feeling, there's an atmosphere here, there's people here that greet you, there's this experience of interacting with your meat cutter and this and your that and that custom service.
That's what I mean.
But I see a division coming.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's going to be.
But you know what? Oh, so let me tell you what I just did with Uber Eats and Grubhub. I just cut them all off. Cut them all off. And so I thought I did it out of haste. I did it out of anger. I was actually.
That's the best ones.
Yeah. I was actually, I fired a couple of people that way too. And I'm like, gosh, could I have waited to the end of the shift?
Yeah.
Anyways, I was starting to have to pay people to eat at the restaurant, to eat. Because by the time all of a sudden there was a huge influx with this order's missing something, this order's missing something. I am so OCD. It might happen once, it might happen twice, but I guarantee you I'm all over it. So for 1 week straight, it was like a lot of stuff and I couldn't figure it out. And so I did the marketing campaign with Uber Eats. It cost me $8. If they spend $30, they got $8 off, blah, blah, blah. So I get an $80 ticket. I get $7 off that $80 ticket for one item that was missing. They charged me the $8. They charged me their fees, plus they charged the what was missing, and I came out with $7. One order, I actually owed them money for a dessert missing. And I said, you can't talk to anybody who speaks English, you're going through all of this stuff. So I got furious and I cut them off, completely off. And then after I had time to think about it, I said, am I going to hurt myself by doing that? You know what? I am not. My sales have not gone down. In fact, they've gone up, and I'm not paying the fees.
Yeah.
So out of what could have been a good marriage between a delivery company and a restaurant has turned to they're the Walmarts of their industry now.
Yep.
They're making money hand over fist, and we're paying it out, and the normal consumer doesn't know the process, doesn't know how it works.
Yeah.
And so I don't use Uber Eats. I don't really eat out much because I'm always at the restaurant. And I am the can of tuna fish.
I've been kind of waiting for those who say, I'm going to just do what Uber Eats does on a smaller scale where I build a relationship with this place, this place,
Correct.
this place, and this place.
Correct.
And now you got a guy that's what he does.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like,
I know.
I've been waiting for those people.
They're coming.
I've been
They
waiting
are.
for those. Like, we have people all the time. Why aren't you in Billings? Why aren't you in Billings? I've been bringing it up with April, and I don't know how to go about finding that person.
Yeah.
But I've been waiting for that person to
Sure.
show up. Who's like, you have all these people who want food in Billings.
Yeah.
Like, I don't do much during the beginning, or I want something to do for the first couple hours of the day. I want to make a little bit of money or whatever.
Right.
Like, boom, we would be running orders
all the
over the
time.
place
I know.
if a person saw it.
Sure.
But
So-
that's I don't want to go in search of that person.
We looked into doing delivery ourselves, and our insurance company said, we'll drop you. So they've come up, and we're with Travelers, which is a big, for the businesses, I mean, that's a big insurance company. Immediately said that they would drop us. And I said, even if they have, how are the Pizza Huts and all of these places doing it?
They have their own.
They have their own, but they also have, the drivers also have to be insured, and it's just whatever. But there's a whole legal process for us to be able to do that. And I said, so basically you've just put a monopoly on this delivery stuff. Cafe Courier was probably the most local, and they hired their employees. But I mean, to be honest, when somebody sketchy walks up to my house, I don't really want to take food from that. And so you
don't know where these people are coming from or who's
you
doing
don't
it.
And I'm not knocking them. Some of them are really great,
Yeah.
and some of them are making good money, and it's older people that I look at that do this as a additional income. But when I have to question where that tip went, because it was split through the company and the driver, where is all of this money going? Who'd have ever thought a restaurant would turn into a tech company? And that is what has happened over the beginning of this pandemic. It was already coming, but it's now full force. But most of these restaurants do not feel like they can survive without having these delivery companies. If I was in New York or California or some of these bigger cities, I'd say, okay, yeah, I'm going to have an issue. But we're in Billings, Montana. Even if I was in New Iberia, Louisiana, those two areas, I obviously like to be a little bit away from the bigger cities, but those areas don't require it. You still have these people, yes, it's an added benefit, but they are starting to catch on. Money's already tight. And if a restaurant is going to have Uber Eats, they're going to have to up their prices on Uber Eats to be able to cover some of the costs. I mean, 30% is a big cost.
Yeah.
So you now have the price influx. You've got the delivery fee, the convenience fee, the additional fees for packaging products. You're paying $30 for a $30 order. And it's the more this generation or this generation before this last one that gravitate to that more than anything. They're going to continue doing it regardless of what the prices are.
Yeah. Right.
Let us start delivering pot and see where that's going to go. That'll happen,
Yeah.
That'll be
coming.
stuff. It's coming. It's coming. And so, I mean, I believe that the restaurants today here in Billings don't need it to survive.
Yeah.
I would like to see us all band together so we can get those costs down where no more than 15% of my money goes to this company to deliver the food, where we're working, we're packaging it, we're cooking it, and then that tip is not going to my employee. It's going to the driver. Well, part of it is going.
Yeah.
It wasn't until last week or the week before that I realized that they were not getting the full tip. That was one more thing to irritate me. And so...
Boy, they get a cut of everything.
Of everything.
Well, I have a friend that's he's 75, and he said he made $30 an hour delivering. And I don't know what company. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't use the Uber Eats or any of those, but I mean,
That's not bad money.
yeah. I mean, when you think about just extra money, he gets to pick his time from like 2 to 6 or
The
something.
concept is good. But these guys are really robbing us between them and the cost of styrofoam, cost of plastic.
Yeah,
gloves.
They actually get a piece of your business.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, that's really what's
They do.
They're
most
partners
of
with
these
it.
things.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we've only had one customer that cursed us out and hung up on us for not being able to use the delivery. One. In the 2 weeks that I said, cut it off, get those, I want the computers off of my desk, I want it out. I mean, I was furious because I had to pay so much money.
But can't
to
you
them.
contract like a 1099 with somebody who wants to just deliver?
I don't know enough about all of that. I do know that there's some legal aspects of it, and as trustworthy as trusting as I am, there are a lot of people out there that are looking just to slip on your ice. And so I would definitely be concerned about how all of that works, And
I just know and maybe it's just.
Well, that's why I say if somebody were to come in and just say, I'm going to start my own delivery service, because
there
I
you
could
go,
probably
Milo.
just go and, yeah, there's another
I
Yeah.
know.
I know. I can come up with them all day long. And
Yeah.
April's like, we're not doing that. But I have a lot of plan Bs.
Yeah. Well,
But that, yes.
It is, no,
there's-
it's totally. That's how I thought Uber started. Was like somebody just said, "Hey," I mean, it's funny to think of it as an app, but they're now taking
Yeah.
some of yours.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
work with
Uber
us.
started doing the taxi
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
you know, like, and it just evolved. They're like, well, they're driving around anyway. When they aren't driving people,
Yeah.
they could swing over and pick up some food and go deliver it for somebody. That's all evolved.
Yeah. The difference, though, is with the drivers that drive people around, their car has to be a certain age or newer.
With the food, it don't matter.
They drive. Let me just tell you, we've had some people roll up in some hoopties. They roll up with their kids, their grandkids, their 10-year-old kid's going to come down at the restaurant and say,
you
I
gotta
need
put
to
that
pick
food
up
in that
this
vehicle.
food. And I mean, and that's not the driver. And we've had some issues, you know, and I'm like, I would not want that person driving up to my house.
Yeah.
You know, and not that I want to sit there and judge, but when
But you just don't have any control after it
Correct.
leaves. You have no control over
and
that food.
unfortunately, it is all on the restaurant.
Yep.
Because I can tell you that we had one lady that ordered food all the way to the back end of Laurel. They brought the food. Now, you telling me that food is going to taste exactly the same from Billings to Laurel. You don't know how long it's been that it's been made or how long it had been since the driver picked it up. And sometimes they pick up multiple orders
Yeah.
and then deliver it.
Yeah.
So, and she was just furious because she had etouffee and it was cold. Okay, well, I already spend like $196 on these fancy schmancy to-go boxes so the fried foods can stay fried fresh longer. I mean, you know, we've done all of these things where I said,
It's not worth it.
it's not worth it and it's not going to matter. Once it gets from A to B, it is not going to taste the same that it does in the restaurant. It's just not. You want it to be as close as you can.
Yeah, but it's not.
It is not. And so you still have those people that are going to gripe and complain. Well, in the beginning, was taking all the cost, and some of them, not all of them, would also get the cost from Uber. So they, again, were paying. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's my name. I can't do that, whatever.
You know that, I mean, this is one of those things my mind's running. Like if you drive your family
Mm-hmm.
to go pick up 3 or 4 meals, like who's going to miss one dessert on this one and
Right.
one? I mean, I hate to make that assumption, but we would do it. I guarantee you. If you had like 4 of us or in the car, like, hey,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you know, I think
If I was
that
18.
Yeah, right. I think the mindset is, you know, obviously we want people to also get an experience when they're picking up their to-go orders. It's just the reason why we spend so much money on all this packaging. We want to make sure that they're getting exactly what they order. The driver of any of the delivery companies has the app on their phone. It is supposed to tell them what they are picking up. But what I recently found out is they don't get paid unless those wheels are driving, which means that this app will say if they're leaving our restaurant, their wheels start spinning, that's when they get paid. So they're coming in, and this was I had signs all over the place that said you cannot pick up this food without your app in hand. I need to see what you have so I can make sure that we have the same thing. And well, I only get to see part of it, or I can't now, or I didn't bring my phone in, or yada yada yada. The list of excuses. But it's because, you know, they're not getting paid while their wheels are not spinning. And so lots of times they'll just walk into the restaurant, assume that to-go bag is for them, and grab the to-go bag and go. And so then you have all of this confusion. So, you know, you learn stuff from all these, you know, veteran restaurants. We were at IHOP. They have a sign-in sheet. They have to sign this sheet, whatever. But I still didn't see the phone app. You know, we're all human and can miss something. I might miss a drink. I might miss a dessert or a salad or something like that. So I felt like, you know, it's just like a salesperson. They're not making money unless they're selling. Well, the same thing with these guys. And so you have some of them that truly are concerned about the experience that they're giving, about what they're bringing to their, you know.
And some just don't care.
And some of them do not care. And so I cut it off where you can't grab a bag unless I hand it to you. I mean, and that's extra work.
That's all these little rules you're having to come up with extra on top of that to get an order
Same thing
out.
with curbside delivery. I mean, you know, all of these things are.
It's almost like you have to build 2 menus, though. One that is priced appropriately appropriately for that,
Correct.
because this is what you're going to pay if you come here to the window. It's
Correct.
going to cost you less. If you come to our business,
Correct.
it's going to cost you less. If we're going to do this over here,
It's
this
gonna
is
be-
what's going to cost you.
And so I really was trying not to do that, and I was trying not to do a convenience.
That's where we in this industry, we're trying to take care of people, and we
Yeah.
don't like translating those costs onto people.
Correct.
We try to absorb what we can
Correct.
until we're out of business.
and then we're like, we
Exactly.
can't make payroll because we've absorbed all those
Exactly.
costs.
And so I just had a long discussion with a consumer and explained how that actually works. And I think that, knowledge is power, no doubt about it, and people understand how all of that works. But we just did come up with a to-go menu. It is a convenience. And so I sat down one day and did, 2 years ago, gloves were $37 a case.
Right.
Now they're 220.
Correct. So now you've got this big gap over something that the normal consumer is not even noticing. To-go containers. So I cannot believe I just did that, but I had no choice but to buy 200 styrofoam containers for $70. They were $10, $11, So then we used plastic, and then we used a special fry container, and the list goes on and on. So I sat down one day and looked at my food costs for dining in and my food costs for delivery. And it was very shocking. So our food costs, which I have been very, I'm meticulous on, monitoring that on a weekly. I do my inventory weekly kind of thing. So I keep 25 to 28% in food costs. So I did this probably 6 months ago. And our food costs had jumped up to 32%. But what was even more astounding was our to-go orders was up to 52%.
Yeah, killing you. Killing you.
us.
Yeah.
You're just
on-
giving food away.
I am giving food away, all to have a fancy plastic.
Styrofoam?
Well, I got a fancy plastic container that had all these punch holes in it, so the food would stay
Wouldn't get all
fried
soggy.
and crispy. And I finally said, "I'm sorry, I can't do that. I'm not doing that." So these are the prices of what it is to go. I'm going to use the styrofoam. I'm going to use the paper box. I'm going to use whatever I can use that's going to be affordable to us and to you.
If you don't like it, eat in.
If you don't like it, would you really like to spend $3.87 for your to-go container? Because that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
I know how much it costs for the fork, the napkin, the salt, the pepper, everything that went into making that dish. And so some restaurants offered did a convenience fee, or say $1.50 or $2 for their to-go. That's not even denting what they're spending on the containers. If you don't price each dish as if it was ready to go in the to-go packaging, you are paying them to eat, and they don't even realize
Yeah,
it.
and eventually you're just going to lose.
Yeah.
You know what
You're
I
just
think-
going to lose.
Yeah, I don't think I've never even thought about what my food comes in.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
No,
I
most
know that
people
it's not going to
don't.
taste the same going home. I get that there are people out there that do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I
My
know that
french
I don't
fries,
expect that.
I don't either, because I'm taking it to go.
Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
not expecting the same that I'm going to get at the restaurant. But you have those people. I got my fried shrimp and they were soggy. Or my french fries were
Oh, yeah,
soggy.
yeah.
And, you want that. You don't want them to have that experience. I can't go around with a hole puncher and punch holes in all the boxes. I don't have time to do that.
Well, and then it'll be cold.
Correct.
So it's a lose-lose.
It is. It is a lose thing. So I even went through the list of what travels better. That's not what they want. They want the fried food. So, it's, you got to go with the lesser of the two evils, but people have to expect to pay those convenience fees because, legally, because I even thought about that, everybody bring your own Tupperware. But legally, you can't do that. Unless you disinfect it in your kitchen, you can't send that out. And so,
Yeah, I think we have a huge waste problem.
I think
gosh.
I think we always do this, and I do this more than April. April keeps us in business, but when we try to make everybody happy, that's when we make the least amount of people happy.
Yeah.
You just have to do what you can do. You have to price it appropriately.
Yeah.
Those who want to complain, they're a complainer.
They're
Go
going to complain anyway.
whatever.
They apparently
If
haven't
you're
been
gonna
to the
have-
grocery store in the last.
If you want some fried shrimp and some fried this and fried that all delivered to you across town, that's a luxury.
Yeah.
You're going to pay for a
Oh, yeah.
luxury.
And
So,
that's true.
if you want McDonald's, they don't we went to a place yesterday. I'm going to throw them right under the bus. I went to Arby's yesterday. I won't say which one. Went to an Arby's yesterday, right? I get it. It comes out really bad, really super fast. I cannot help but look at my food. I'm like, there's actually a guy in line who somebody assembles it. They push it down to this guy, and he punches it right in the middle. I know this because every time I get a sandwich, it's smashed. Like, it's not even, this has not been riding around in somebody's trunk.
You think they're in line? They're in line to punch it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They got to be. That's the only way that it can be.
I would say they're more like in a hurry.
No,
but I get what you're
there's the
saying.
only way that every time I go to any, and it's not just them. I'm not picking on them. It's everybody. Like everybody
It's
in the fast food
food.
industry, it's smashed.
You get what you pay for, and
So-
fast food isn't cheap now. But
Yeah. So anyway, but what happens? We keep paying for that nonsense. You know, we
Absolutely,
keep
yeah,
paying for
you're
it,
absolutely
right.
Yep.
I don't know. So whereas in our world, we're trying to provide food that's hot and fresh and good and it looks good. You know, I say charge them.
Yeah,
Charge
and
them
you're
for
going
it.
to have to. You know, and there's two types of people that are in this industry. You've got the people that are in there, like the McDonald's owners of the world, that are turn and burn. Let's get it out. I mean,
They're not in the food business,
They're not
though.
in the food business. Because
Yeah.
it's only the dollar signs.
It's the
And then
rest of us. We're in the
Correct.
food business. They're not in the food
Correct.
business.
So passionate about food, and I want you to experience that. I want to put a smile on your face. I want to, you to leave.
I want
here
you to
saying,
stop and be like,
Oh my God! Yes.
Had an
exactly.
experience, you know.
Exactly.
It's true. It's
And
totally
listen, I can pick him out. This one guy he took a bite of his food and went outside, and his family was still there eating. And I said, oh, he was on the phone. So I thought, okay. I said, well, does he want a box? She said, no. I said, he didn't like it? She said, well, it was different. Crawfish or gator, I'm always kind of, that is different for people. And so I said, well, he doesn't leave fatties without being fat. So what else can I get him? And she said, oh my gosh, nobody's ever done that. I gave her the refund. Told her I needed to fix him something else, but you can't leave my restaurant still hungry. And, oh my gosh, she took to Facebook and put that on there, and it was like 1,000 people that commented, oh my gosh, that is so cool. We don't get that kind of service. Why wouldn't you do that? If they can't, the one side of me said, well, that's what they ordered.
yeah.
But the other side of me says, well, you're going to walk away with a bad taste in your mouth, and you're not going to, you're not, and you're still hungry. You got to eat.
Yeah.
The impossible thing, though, is doing what you did is freeing up an employee to be able to make that kind of a move. Like it's such a catch now for employees because they can't just make that needed to happen, right?
Right.
But you can't. It's how do you enable an employee to see what needs to be done in that moment?
call.
That over the long term, that's what's best for that customer. That's what's best for this business. But they're not taking advantage of that, and they're taking care of their friends.
Sure.
So it's a really tough one.
Yeah.
So once you get past this level
Correct.
of where it's you or us behind that counter,
I have done something that is my mentors in my life in the restaurant industry have taught me, and I just am that person naturally. But we've created an environment in our restaurant, and I know that you guys can feel it when you've dealt with our employees, how they treat you, how they respond to the restaurant, how clean the restaurant is, and all these other things. And I would say 9 times out of 10, our employees behave that way. We've created an environment in there where they are personally dedicated to me. They are personally connected to me. I don't recommend that to every business in the world. I really don't, because it can be trying at times, especially in the restaurant industry. But they know that these customers are going to call me. They know that they're going to message me. They know if something is wrong, I'm going to catch wind of it before they can even get to the back of the building. But that wasn't the environment I was trying to create. What I was trying to teach them is you have to read people. You have to find out. If you're not asking them if they're enjoying their meal, and if they say it's okay, that's a problem, then you can't work on my floor. You need to be able to feel that out and truly ask them how their experience is. We don't get a whole lot of complaints. We really don't. And I'm not tooting my own horn because, I guarantee 50% of the people are not going to complain.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel that comes from them feeling like you care in the first place. If you just feel that somebody cares,
You're
that
not.
diffuses
Well,
a
it
lot
is-
of
I
things.
think-
It's
I
the
think-
places that you go to where you're like, this kid behind here does not care.
Does not
And-
care.
And that's why you vent
Yeah.
because you're out of control of the situation.
Correct.
Whereas you feel like, oh, I don't have to feel out of control because they care. So
Correct.
just instilling in your people to care.
And
Just
you know
care
what?
and appear that you care.
Sure. And I tell them all the time, I hire them for their heart. I can teach anybody that has heart.
Yeah.
So,
I
and
agree.
you have to be, and we've had some that are not that
Yeah.
way. They don't fit in. They're just not, you know.
Not everybody is meant to deal with people in a
Correct.
waitress, that type of situation. Like, oh,
And so my rule of thumb is you're going to make it right. We're always going to make it right. But looking at what just happened with the Uber thing, that's some sketchy stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think that we did anything wrong.
yeah.
I don't think we missed all of those items. I think that people have caught on to, if I call, they're not going to question me.
Right.
Oh, 100%.
Absolutely.
And
Yep,
so that's what I said, well, you know, I can't monitor that, so I'm just going to cut them off.
I knew people that used to do that for
It's-
pizza.
It's
and then
either. Go-
Get new pizzas delivered. They'd say their pizza was messed up and they'd get new pizzas delivered.
I don't know how people
We
do
did,
that. I couldn't sleep
when
on
we were
myself.
kids, we used to go. No, this is true. We used to go to Pizza Hut. We were in high school. We used to go and say, "Hey, the ones that didn't work, how many of those pizzas do you have?" And then we'd get to know like the manager or whatever, and they'd give it to us for half price or whatever.
yeah.
But it's true. People have figured out that like Uber Eats, if you complain about something,
They're
then
just going to give it.
you're just gonna get
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where you have to build it into your
Well,
menu pricing
You have
to
to build it in.
absorb that game.
Yep.
And they don't, I mean, they really don't, they're not going to check. And I mean, like with Grubhub, there's no questions asked. Now with Grubhub, it's a little bit different of who's going to pay the fee. But Uber Eats, I mean, they've got the monopoly on all of it. I mean, DoorDash, I would assume DoorDash is a little bit. I mean, I just spoke to not so much here, but in your bigger cities, they're more popular than Uber. But no questions asked policy. But who's paying that? I am, and so if I can't monitor that, well.
You're right.
Yeah, and for them, it's just a numbers game.
And I'll do things like 2 for Tuesday or Takeout Tuesday and give a percentage off for them to call in. But I'm not going to play the game anymore. I
I don't blame you.
not
don't either.
it's
I don't
not
either.
worth it, and it makes me mad.
Right? You don't need that
Mad.
anger.
But a lot of-
Hot-headed Cajun woman, that's terrible.
But I think a lot of what you're creating is the experience. It is that, I had two of my employees, actually the newer ones. They're like, Cody, I've never had a boss ever just thank me as much, And it was a simple text message, actually, the one that he was responding to. I said, hey, good job today. We had problems and it was, overall, but
Sure.
it's like tomorrow's another day. But it's interesting that, we're all one boss away from hating our jobs.
Yeah.
But people don't realize what it means to lead.
Right.
And they need that direction.
Well, and and I do have a great general manager and a great kitchen manager. I mean, they're younger than I am, but they are passionate and they're always willing to learn. But they're more people first, or more employees first. And I have always said that if your employees are happy, your customers are happy. And so, yes, they come of this generation that doesn't really think the same way that I do. I've always been that people person where everybody's a person. Everybody should feel important. And I need everybody to see that, from customers to the dishwasher. I'm not going to ask anybody in this business to do anything that I'm not willing to do. And there are days that I'm in the dish pit. There are days that I'm taking out the trash. I'm a hands-on person. What else would I be doing, right? Mm-hmm. If I'm there, I got to be working. But there are those people that you can't train. You can't train their heart. If it's not in their heart, it's not going to be in their heart, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's the worst. Trying to pick somebody up from the bottom when they don't want to be picked up from the bottom. That is the worst.
Sometimes we do. We take on projects that are not going to...
Yeah.
That aren't benefiting anybody.
No, but make
More
me
frustrating
crazy.
at the end, yeah.
My sister, I have to laugh, because my sister has fixed more people's teeth. Her daughter, this is as a teenager, all her teeth, they were poor. They couldn't get their teeth cleaned, or they couldn't whatever. And she's a teeth person and whatever. And literally, I'm not lying. She's probably fixed 10 people's mouths, along with bought houses and cars for people, because she wanted to take them from a level that they were at and bring them up to a different level. And it didn't always work out. Lots of times it did, but she would get so depressed and so sad because she couldn't fix that person. She couldn't fix the things that they said were wrong. And so lots of times when we're in business and we are of that nature, that gets trying. I mean, I've done quite a few rehabs. I've done quite a few pay the bills, borrow the money, and whatever, and then for them to do it again and again and again. And some of these
and
problems
you do. You have a certain percentage of that doesn't improve.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter what you do.
I found that was actually the focus of my master's degree, and it's the circle of influence.
Yeah.
But it's in order to go, just to make it kind of a chain, let's just say 4 links on a chain. You can't go from 1 to 4 unless there's a connection to connect that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And one of the things that you learn through that process is, people are only willing to go so far. You have to fill that chain in.
Sure.
And if they're not willing to, then you can't do it for
You
them.
can't force it.
Mm-mm.
I know, and sometimes that is just so
It's the hardest
heartbreaking.
lesson.
It is, even with my own kids.
Right.
It
You know,
And it's just a human nature thing. I can't remember who the guy was. I don't know, he put it on Twitter last year. I saw this quote where he said, because it's a human nature thing. I might be going off in a different direction with this, but he said if you took all the money in the world and distributed it evenly between everybody and we start over, and he's like, in a matter of, he said, in a matter of this time, like, a year or within a decade or whatever it is, he's like, the money will end up in the same places.
Yep.
It will, because we are what we are. We're creatures of habit, in our strengths, our weaknesses, and our everything
People
else.
are
And some
by
people change,
nature.
some people don't change, but typically people are people, humans are humans,
Right.
and they are going to do what they're going to do. So, and then when it comes to those employees, we spend a tremendous amount of time and energy and money and everything trying to rehabilitate somebody that
Invest in them.
that we
You
see the
invest.
potential in. Everybody has potential. We see
Yes.
the potential,
Yeah.
right?
they don't see it.
But a lot of times they don't see it, and there's those who are going to do what they can to realize their potential, and there's those that are just not.
Yeah.
I don't know. We struggle with the same thing, but and that's why recently, within the last year, we just quit playing that game. We
In a sense, we have.
And you know what? I have done that too. And sometimes I question myself, have I become hardened? Have I become cold? I've always had that open door policy where you can come and you can talk to me. But I am also the one, when I was younger, I took an aptitude test. I said I should have been a psychologist. And I said, oh, no, I would have taken everybody's problems home with me. And I still, to this point, do that to an extent. But I've gotten better about
saying enough's enough, and you got to put
right.
Yeah.
And setting up some boundaries, because the language is all the same. They read from one book. At least that's what it sounds like, and it's all the same story, just in a different person.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm like, well, you know what? I can't help you, but maybe this person can. This person that I'm not equipped to help you in that way, and I don't loan money out. You have to, even though I do sometimes, I don't want to say that too loud. You might cut that one. But I've gotten to the, can I take a paycheck loan or a this or a that or a whatever? And then, this business is so, we're on such a tight leash with money that, it's just not a good habit to get into.
The food industry isn't a huge, there
No.
isn't a huge percentage. Now, if you're serving alcohol, that's why the restaurants who serve alcohol make
better.
it.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah, exactly.
because there's a 200% markup on drinks.
Yeah.
Wow.
And look,
Yeah.
we're going to be doing
so we're
breakfast
gonna get
burritos
it.
and
Mimosa.
right. Yeah, exactly.
No kidding.
So you're going to get a $4 drink and you're going to tip your bartender $1.
Yep.
Right?
Every single time.
But on a food ticket, you're going to look at that and say, I shouldn't have to pay 15%.
yeah.
Or which 15%, it should not even be anymore. It should be 20%. I tell my employees that all the time. You should be working for 20%. You need to make sure that you're giving 20% service. But nonetheless, because we get, a little loopy, and then, man, before you know it, you're throwing $5 bills out. And I'm not dogging that part of the industry, but I'm just saying.
No, they know how to work
what
it.
perception is.
Yes.
What perception is. And so it's like I say all the time, the restaurant, the parking lot may be packed. I do only see 32 people. But perception to other places or other restaurants, they are busy all the time. Well, I can only see 32. And sometimes that's, 32 is, we might have to lose a seat or two or whatever, So that, again, is just that perception. But as far as picking people up from the ground and trying to get them where they need to be, that has to be a want only, and they have to want it. And so I find that I'm not heartless, but I'm not willing to, I can't do the work. So luckily I've gotten, because we went through a time where I probably had half of my employees that were strung out on something. And life, drugs, alcohol, whatever. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not old, but I am naive to this. I don't even know what meth looks like. I didn't realize that, you can go to work and be a functioning,
Addict?
yes.
Addict.
That's who we're trying to hire.
I did have one dishwasher. Let me just tell you, those floors, my pipes, everything was clean. I said,
Yeah.
How did you do
I
that?
want whatever
There's only
she
a
has.
very small percentage of them that are functioning, and that's who
Correct.
we're going for.
Correct.
We have a strict no drug test policy at our place.
Yeah, right. So, those people, though, now I'm starting to recognize what that looks like. I can recognize a drunk. I can smell a pothead. They kept, we had some that would come to work and they smelled like skunk. And, one of mine was actually mine. And I said, I'm going to put some air freshener right here on this desk. I don't care how legal this is. I don't want my employees to smell like skunk running around here. And so you guys are going to Febreze your jackets.
That's great. I
So
love
they
it.
didn't. And so I did it one day, and the next day it was the same thing. So I used my very expensive perfume, and I sprayed it on all those jackets. I said, now go explain that to your girlfriend. Don't come back in here with skunk smell, or I'm going to keep dousing you in my perfume, and you're going to see how you're going to explain it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why a lot of the things that we're in such a smaller town
Yeah.
here. Like we struggle. It's a very difficult hiring pool.
Yeah.
It is really, and that's why we just kind of got to the point where we were like, let's just not even try to rehire at this point. Let's figure out what's going on. Let's run lean and mean right now. Let's figure out another side of our business that we probably wouldn't have time to do. But being in Billings, I feel like we would be tempted. We'd be doing what everybody else is doing is trying, like, we don't have Uber Eats here.
Yeah.
It's not even an option here. So it's interesting to hear the things that you are dealing with in there, because in some ways we don't have those problems. We have other problems. We're in a town of 1,800 people.
So we don't have.
And we're trying,
Right.
but it's super interesting to learn that. And also in Billings, it's, if you're not growing, you're probably dying. So if you're not hiring people and not filling those voids, and if you're not growing, you're probably dying.
Yep.
I don't know. I feel like here for us, it's maybe just a little bit different. I could see that if we were in town, though, we would be going through a lot of those same things. And we did. We had much bigger goals for this year than what we are doing right now. We were like, it's kind of interesting what you were saying about putting in this much bigger project.
Mm-hmm.
We were thinking about the same things in the food truck industry of like, let's put in a hub for startup food trucks where you can afford to park here at night and plug in.
Yeah.
If you can't, you don't have space in your neighborhood, because I know all the little problems of what it was.
Sure.
I was like, let's go get a nice big piece of property on the West End where we can put in a hub where people can plug in. If you don't have a walk-in, we have a huge walk-in. You don't need to meet minimum orders. You can get a few orders because we get a whole truck coming over here, and they load. Everybody has a cage in this walk-in. If you don't know how to do social media, that's okay. We have people here who do social media and can help you for
You're onto something, though. I mean, maybe not right now, but I think that within the next 6 months, or getting ready to open season, I think that would be huge. I pay for a storage unit or a storage lot that I can plug up to.
Yeah.
And I've been doing that for years, because that was, I can empty, I can fill, I can, all these little things that people aren't aware of. But I really think that, I don't know. I think that this summer we're going to see an influx in food trucks again, just because, all of these shuttered restaurants, or that people are not going to be able to afford to go
They're going to drop employees and start going back to mom and pop running food trucks.
Correct.
And that was, if I had the same thing. But the crowdfunding thing, I guess I didn't even really think about that. But we'd talked about it, but it would take a lot of money, and I don't got the money. But it was literally be a place where people could come in and they're like, oh, like this is a good place to get your start. You don't got to stick with us forever, but if you want to get your start with us, you can park here. This is, we'll help you, develop your menu. That we'll have people that'll, can help you with these things. You need merchandise. We got people. This is a screen printing section over here. Like we're doing decals and screen printing for, whoever. And not in a way to gouge anybody, but like I really understand the way of how hard it is to get started and all the things you don't know.
Correct.
Things you don't even think of.
But to also draw in, I feel like doing something like that would draw in the creatives who are like, if you're going to get started in this, you need to go here. Because a lot of the greats they got started here. Right. And we bring in the good food.
And then everybody... Well, if they're starting out, they need to learn. They do a little bit of research online, but they just have no idea of what is entailed. So I think that offering something like that is really a cool thing. Yeah. When I saw food truck races, I didn't know anything about a food truck other than I knew that I was jumping into a territory that was unfamiliar for people here. And so I needed a foot in. They needed to be able to try me before I invested in going into the restaurant business. Yeah. And so but little did I know how much fun I was going to have in this thing. Yeah. And I did. I really did have a lot of fun. Guys, that restaurant's calling me.
Oh.
All right.
They said you've been off of work long enough. I have been gone for quite some time. And so
they miss you.
Well, no, they're saying I need change. I need money.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the time that we've had.
Oh gosh, it's been fun.
Yeah, we'll do it again. It is always fun to get to know people and know what their challenges are and what their plans are, where they're going with things, and just to learn from each other. So we do appreciate you taking some time. Yes. I know you're busy. Yes. I know how busy we all are, and so we don't take it for granted. So
well, I'd like to interview you guys.
Yeah,
because I gotta pick. You know what? I do really want to pick your brain though on some social media stuff and all of these things.
Yeah,
Actually, I just want somebody to do it for me, but
Right.
Yeah.
I hate computers.
Anytime.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure, guys.
Yes.
All right. Hey, well, thanks everybody, and we'll do it again. We'll wrap this one up.